This video didn't really turn out the way I wanted it. This was actually supposed to be a time-lapse, but I spent a couple of hours building it, and then I exited the game, saw it didn't save, and then I went to my settings and had a look and see that I didn't have single player ticked on, and I was like, oh, well, that's okay. I'm just gonna go and take a short walk. I might be a while. So yeah, I wasn't recording the entire time I was time-lapsing, so I was like, I'm not gonna do that again. I might actually jump off a cliff. So instead, I went for a cinematic at the start, and I'm going to do a tutorial on how to build the house on the hill. I was actually going to do it in a separate video, because I was sure that people would see the time-lapse and say, hey, how do I make that house? So instead, I'm just going to sort of combine the two and show you how to make that house. And it's actually fairly simple, and it looks pretty good. So I'm going to make a quick copy of the one that I made the first time round, and I'm going to delete it, and we'll start all over again doing a tutorial on this house. So let's get right into it. Okay, so you need to start with a rectangular base of any sort of size, but this is roughly what you want. The wider it is, the taller it's going to have to be. So you want to raise it up pretty high. I'd go like 6 or 7 blocks up, and then you need to create this arch. And it tends to go up 3 block, 2 block, 2 block, 1 block, and then it just edges over the top at the end. Get that very nice arch shape. Once you've done that, you need to take log and then create beams jutting out at regular intervals along that archway. So you see I've chosen 3 places. Next you're going to need to take your hay block, or wheat block, or whatever you want to call it, and layer it over the top of your arch, mirroring that shape exactly. But then you also want to go 1 block in front and mirror the arch 1 block below. So you've got that layer of depth that makes the wheat on the roof look very thick. And it's up to you how much wheat you want to add on this archway. I like to make it look really big on the top, and then it can curve in the middle, like it's almost sunken a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of the idea there, that you want to add as much wheat as possible without overdoing it, and really get that sort of old house feeling. And then we want to go round, and you see where I've got 2 supports there? We're going to want to make the wheat roof extend down like it's got a little lip on the house. So we go down and we extend it out kind of half randomly to match those 2 supports, and then we go all the way back round the arch, just thickening it up again. And now this is where world edit comes into play a little bit, where I just extend it out using the / stack command, which you should have learned from my world edit tutorial. But you can do this by hand nonetheless, there's nothing stopping you. But on the roof, I don't like to have it completely wheat or hay or whatever you want to call it, because the colour isn't particularly good at having a continuous texture. So what I like to do is add a little bit of colour there by adding whatever sort of clay that you want, just mirroring that shape, replacing that wheat with the clay. And that kind of makes it look like, I don't know, they've thrown a rug over the top of it, or whatever you want to imagine it to be. And then I use world edit just to copy paste it over the other side, and it's completely mirrored. Again, you can do that by hand because you are just copying exactly the same thing you did on the front to the back. And so now I'm going to work on some of the more details of the wall. Now this is a style of door that I've not really shown you before. I'm basically decorating a hole in the wall, and I'm using staircases and cobblestone and half slab to make it look like a very handcrafted door. Not a lot to it, but it does look very effective, having a nice open doorway. And similarly with the windows, I'm edging in random shapes or lines and then decorating it with half slab. Having that asymmetry in the windows can be quite appealing. In fact, I find symmetry in these kind of builds make it look a little bit too unnatural, like it wasn't actually made by human hands. And again, in the same way, I added a door on the side and 2 windows, again not making it too symmetrical. And around on the other side, again I do the same thing, and you'll notice that I'm intentionally making it a block out of line from each other and adding a different style for each window. And on the back here, same thing as on the front, few windows with those half slab decorations, not too much, not too little, and any sort of lack of detail in the wall will be addressed very soon. So once I've finished adding those windows, I'm actually going to knock out a couple of the segments in the corners just to make it look like the house has decayed a little bit. So now I'm going to do a tiny bit of world edit just to save a lot of time doing this by hand, and I'm going to change the roof to be all the same orientation. So I do // replace 170, which is the hay block, and then 175. Once I've done that, I then replace all the stone with various blocks using the command // replace stone, and then a whole bunch of percentages that you can copy if you wanted to do it yourself. I then go and replace random blocks with cobblestone stairs, just to make it look really old. And now I'm just going to do a very quick interior, and I'm not going to explain myself too much. You can kind of see what I'm doing here, just adding beams, adding a second floor, quick staircase, and I'll be adding various furniture pieces like bookshelves, desks, and I'll be adding a furnace, and then adding all the sorts of things that you would want in a survival house. So there's going to be a crafting table, anvil, anything like that, but making it fit within the house environment somehow. Like I've said many times before, I'm not a big person on interior, so this may not be the highest quality and you could probably do better yourself, but I feel like it was necessary to give this house an interior since it has such open windows and you can see inside. And that's basically it for this house on the hill. I then made the rest of the builds during the time-lapse, all the other houses, but this one on the hill was the main focus, and you can tell by how high it is above all the others. And what really makes this house amazing is having those mountains in the background, and you can see that the grass is all connected. I actually used a little bit of a trick there with the resource pack, having those grass not decay and having them link up like that. I feel like it was a real benefit to the video. Anyway, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm very sorry for messing up the time-lapse because I really did want to have that cute one. I just couldn't bring myself to record it all over again, so I do apologise. I hope you've enjoyed this nonetheless. And for those of you that liked the cinematic at the start, I re-recorded it with some shaders on because I often see people asking, can you do that in shaders? So here you go, enjoy, and see you in the next video. Goodbye!